Hey there, Suzi here. Before we get into today's episode, I want to share this special message with you. Now, my co-host Michelle and I love masterminds. Not only do we belong to masterminds, but we also host a mastermind. We started it almost 8 years ago, and it is the premier mastermind for women business owners who want to grow their business with a specific focus on marketing. Now, this group is usually completely booked out, and very occasionally we open the doors and invite a handful of women in. So if you're growing your business, but you're struggling with feeling overwhelmed, or like you constantly have a split focus when it comes to your marketing, this could be exactly what you're looking for. We have an amazing time together, and the women in the group are extraordinary. They're great cheerleaders, supporters, advisors, and colleagues for you. And they're also seeing extraordinary results. We see people cracking the $1 million, $2 million, $3 million mark, launching new e-commerce sites that go from $0 to $10,000 a month in sales. They're doubling their conversion rates, they're growing memberships, they're selling courses, they're growing their personal brands, and they're getting all kinds of media exposure and speaking opportunities and so much more. You can learn more about the mastermind and join the wait list over at herbusinessmastermind.com. We're going to open the doors soon, so you definitely want to be on the list to get an invitation. So head on over to herbusinessmastermind.com. Hey there, Suzi here, and before we get into today's episode, I want to share a special message with you. My co-host Michelle and I love masterminds, and not only do we belong to them, but Michelle and I also host a marketing mastermind. We started it about 6 years ago, and it is the premier mastermind for women business owners who want to grow their business with a specific focus on marketing. And while this group is usually completely booked out, occasionally we open the doors and invite a handful of new women in. If you're growing your business and you're struggling with feeling overwhelmed or like you're constantly having a split focus when it comes to your marketing, this could be exactly what you're looking for. The results in the mastermind are extraordinary. We're seeing women crack the $1 million mark, launch new e-commerce sites that go from $0 to $10,000 a month in just 30 days, double their conversion rates, get new strategic alliances, grow their personal brands, go from having 3 to 4 people in an online course to 30 to 40 people in just a few months. 10x their previous rates without losing clients. Take a side hustle and turn it into a full-time salary because their marketing is creating so much momentum. Plus, get all kinds of new media exposure and speaking opportunities and so much more. You can learn more about the Marketing Success Mastermind and apply right now over at herbusinessmastermind.com. Now, let's get on with the show. Hi, you're listening to the Content Sells Podcast, the show all about how to create content to attract, convert, and keep your ideal clients. Welcome to episode 189. I'm Suzi Dafnis, and here with me is my wonderful co-host, Michelle Falzon. How are you?
Hey, Suzi, I am really feeling great, actually. And, I always love it when we have a guest on the show.
Me too. I feel so lucky that we have these amazing people in our world and that we get to share them with our listeners.
I agree. It's something I've always found makes such a big difference, and that is putting yourself in environments and in situations where you're drawn to certain people and where those people are doing the things and being the way that you most want to be able to do, be, and have as well.
Absolutely. Just a few weeks ago, as you know, I was in the US where I attended the mastermind that I'm a part of, and it was so good to be back spending time with these amazing humans who are up to interesting things. I found it inspiring, thought-provoking, and we had so much fun. So much fun together.
Yes, it looked like you had an amazing, amazing time. And I just love seeing the photos and the connection. And yeah, you really did look like you're having a ball. And I too am just back from my first trip to the US in 2.5 years, which is just mind-boggling considering how much I was there previously. But it was also to attend the mastermind that I'm a part of up in Colorado. And I agree with you, Suzi, just so incredible to see everyone in person, and I cannot wait. I feel so excited now for the mastermind that you and I run here in Australia because we are meeting up in a few weeks from when this episode airs in Noosa, which is a lovely sunny location in Queensland, Australia, for all our masterminders to come together.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've come back from the US. My cup is filled with inspiration, connection. I've got brimming with ideas. And I think, the main thing is I feel supported. And it's just somehow in my core stronger when it comes to the things that I really want to create next. And Suzi, one other great thing that I know you know that happened while I was away was I got to be in person, up close and personal, and spend some lovely time with today's guest.
Yes, and I am so looking forward to introducing her because this is someone I'm really keen to learn more about and to learn from, because she's achieved some pretty spectacular growth in her business in only a few years. And for you, as you're listening, when you hear the big numbers that we're going to be sharing, it can feel a little bit like, yeah, but how does that relate to me? And I totally get it. And that's why I'm looking forward today, because our guest started with a very humble number of visitors to her website each month, around 1,000 people finding her out there in the big wide web. But she's managed to grow that to a staggering 500,000 people a month who visit her website. And so it didn't happen overnight, as you'll hear, but as the ad says, it did happen. And we're going to be discovering the strategies that she used that made the biggest difference for her to take her from where she was to where she is today.
Yeah, that's right. And our guest today is the amazing Lorraine Dallmeier, and she is the award-winning CEO of Botanica, a name I just love. Mm-hmm. And it's an online organic cosmetic formulation and business school, which has trained over 14,000 organic cosmetic formulators and indie beauty entrepreneurs in 175 and counting countries. And Lorraine was voted the most influential person in natural beauty in 2020 and awarded the Digital Achiever of the Year award for the cosmetics industry by Google. Wow. And that is a very competitive industry, so that's really saying something. Lorraine is on a mission to teach the world to formulate. And at the end of today's interview, we will share with you how you can get a free gift from Lorraine that will help you see how she's getting some of the incredible results that she's getting.
Very exciting. Let's go to our interview with Lorraine.
Hi, Lorraine. Welcome to the Content Sales Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It is such a pleasure to be here.
Oh my gosh, I have been so looking forward to talking to you about some of the things I know you've been sharing in a mutual business group that we're in, and just so happy that the Content Sales listeners are going to get to hear your brilliance today, because I've been hearing it for a while and really wanting to make sure that we share it with our audience.
Oh, it's going to be a great chat. I love talking content. I love talking marketing. So yes, looking forward to this.
Well, let's just dive right on in, because I would love you to tell us about your business, Botanica. Love the name, by the way, and how it is you started. How did you get going with this business?
Oh, it's a great question. So I was actually one of Botanica's first ever students. I will put it out there straight away. We're an online school and we teach people how to make their own organic cosmetics, skincare, hair care, tiny bit of makeup. And I was one of its first students over a decade ago because I wanted to start my own skincare brand. I'm a biologist by training, an environmental scientist, and I loved what I was doing. I was geeking out so much with all these wonderful ingredients. But I saw the immense potential that the school had, because at the time it was just a one-woman side hustle. It was basically just a small online course. And I ended up actually buying it lock, stock and barrel when I was on maternity leave. It was going to be my side hustle that I was going to do as I, had my second child at home with me, my toddler. And then I went back into my day job part-time. I used to design onshore commercial scale wind farms, very, very different. And so then I took on Botanica. And at the time it was quite a neglected business, if I'm going to be honest. The systems weren't finished properly. The courses needed a bit of tweaking. The website wasn't finished. There was no sort of customer support in place, really. The whole thing was a bit shabby around the edges. And I knew that when I bought it. But I was like, well, this can be my little hobby, I'll just spruce it up. But I spent a lot of my time learning about digital marketing techniques while I was on both of my maternity leaves, because I was fascinated by it. And I'd already started a business before that. And so I just threw everything I'd learned about digital marketing into Botanica. And within 4 months, I'd quit my job And I was like, right, I'm doing this full time. And my partner at the time was like, are you sure? This, doesn't seem like a very sensible idea. Why don't you wait another year or so? And I was like, no, we're going to do this. I jacked it all in, threw myself into Formula Botanica. We had about 200 students at the time. Now we're at over 17,000. It's not a side hustle anymore. I have 40 staff. We sell millions in courses every year. And it's just a completely different place. But all of that is because of digital marketing and content.
It is such an inspiring story. And, there are people listening right now who have a side hustle or who are looking for something that they can get going. And I think that's going to be really inspirational for them to hear where it began. And I know it had these humble beginnings and it's become this incredible business. But I'd love you to just share with us a little bit about the traffic to your website, because when you first started, and you mentioned, it was a few hundred students, and I think you had about 1,000 people a month coming to your site and finding you. Tell us, what are the numbers of people visiting your site these days?
Well, it's a little bit different nowadays. So, as you say, in the beginning, it was like 1,000 people a month. We weren't getting much traffic to the website. Now we have months when we'll have over 600,000 page views, 200,000 users, 400,000 sessions. They stay on the website for a really long time. Sometimes they'll be sat there for 10, 15 minutes. It's really amazing to see how we've gone from 1,000 page views to over 500,000 in 8 years, really. And it just goes to show how incredibly important that traffic is to us, because I can see a direct correlation between the numbers going up and the revenues going up and the business growing. The three go absolutely hand in hand. So I look at those numbers now and I go, oh my goodness, that's incredible. 600,000 page views, 200,000 people. That's amazing. And that is all because we've just plugged away at content marketing for the last 8 years.
Oh, there's so many things I want to dig into now to find out all about this. And the first thing I want to know about that growth from, 1,000 page views to 500,000 page views every single month. How long did it take to get to those numbers? I know you mentioned it's been 8 years, but was it a couple of rapid jumps up at certain times, or was it a more gradual, organic climb?
It was an organic climb. So I will say right now, Formula Botanica hasn't invested much yet in paid marketing. It's something we want to do, but for very many reasons that I won't go into now, it hasn't quite worked out for us yet. So the main growth behind the business has been organic. And for that reason, you can see a lovely organic curve just going up and up and up and up when you look in Google Analytics over 8 years. It's just this beautiful sort of line upwards because of the fact that we just kept adding more content onto the website and we kept doing better at the content we created. And, you just show up every day and keep churning out that content. I know churn is maybe not the nicest word since the content is my baby, really, but it has been quite linear because of that organic growth. And I think if we threw in some paid marketing, and very sometimes we do, then we do start to see some spikes where it has come from paid traffic, but the vast majority of it is from organic.
And what was one of the most important things you did early on to set that growth in motion? Because I know some people can just stay stuck, at 1,000 or 500 page views or whatever their number is and really not see much change month on month, year on year.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I mean, I started blogging. So I will say straight away, I'm a prolific content creator. Even if I wasn't running this business, I would be blogging about something somewhere. I'm really opinionated. I want an outlet. And I built the first website in 1995 when I was 14, 15 years old. We got the internet at home. We were like the only people in my neighborhood who had the internet. I started learning how to make my own GeoCities website. I started blogging. And but even before blogging platforms existed. So it sort of pours out of me at all times. And so I started doing that in 2014 when I bought Formula Botanica, because it had 3 blog posts on the website at the time. And I'm going to be honest, all 3 of them were rubbish. And I sort of looked at that and thought, okay, we've got to start putting some good stuff on there. So every 2 weeks or so, because keep in mind, I was still on maternity leave with my baby and my toddler with me, I thought, right, let's start just putting a little bit of content out every 2 weeks or so. And I would start to write articles. And then what I always did, and I don't do this anymore because now I have a team who does this, but I had a checklist. And every single time I wrote a blog post, I would go down that checklist and it would say, share to Facebook, share to Twitter, share to stumble upon, the random social platforms we had 10 years ago. And because of that, I would just get it out on as many platforms as possible. And then I started emailing it to my list. And I realized that I needed something to say to my list when I was going to email them. I couldn't just go, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. I had to say, here's something of value that's going to benefit you, is going to make you want to stay on my list, and is going to make you feel good about Formula Botanica. So that's how it started, really. I started putting content on the website every 2 weeks, and then slowly but surely I ramped that up to every week. And we still do that religiously now. Every single Tuesday, a piece of content goes out. We've since added to that. We now also have a podcast. I host the Green Beauty Conversations podcast, where I unpick sustainability topics around beauty, which I love. And that goes out every Thursday. So something goes up on the blog every Thursday to do with the podcast. So twice a week, outside of launch windows, we have 2 bits of content that go up. And when you keep adding, you're effectively layering like an onion, aren't you? So we've gone from having maybe 10 blog posts in 2014 to over 400 on the website now. And I once read an article that basically talks about the fact that when you have a website, you have your standard pages, you have your about page, your contact page, your home page, and that stays static. But when you have a blog, you're constantly adding new pages to it, and you're adding more opportunities to Google for people to find you. So if you consider that in 2014, I maybe had 20 pages for people to find me, now I have thousands, because obviously the website has grown considerably as well. And that just creates more avenues for people to find Formula Botanica, come and check out what we do, fall in love with what we do, and hopefully opt in for our freebies.
So many inspiring things in what you're saying there, because it is that commitment and consistency. You made a commitment, and even to this day, every Tuesday those blog posts are going out, and every Thursday now you have the podcast. And I think sometimes we're looking for, or people can be looking for, that bright, shiny thing that's just going to instantly change the game. And I think there's something really powerful in what you're saying there about, look, just getting started, and it's going to be small, and you might not be great at it to start with, but that consistency over time can eventually make a massive difference.
Yes. More than anything, consistency is king. I love the word consistency. It is always my main piece of advice, actually. And I find people flounder with consistency, which I find fascinating, because I can see the results happening in front of me when I am consistent. But if I look back, for instance, at my peers in online marketing, who I was with at the time when I took over Formula Botanica, the vast majority of them no longer run the businesses that they were running at that time, because they gave up, because they weren't consistent. And I feel frustrated, actually, when I watch people do this, because I think if you just kept plugging away at what you're doing, if you see even a modicum of success with it when you first start out, keep doing it, because it will snowball eventually. And it has with us. And our blog posts, our blog now rivals the amount of traffic that mainstream cosmetics industry publications get. The trade body publications get less traffic than we do. And we now have so much clout through that blog that I actually get PRs send me press releases to go, can we be featured on your blog? Because they even view it as a publication. So I always say we're an online education institution, but we're now also effectively a publishing company because of the fact that we're churning out content every week.
Mind-blowing. I did not know that you have really kind of elevated this, the influence that you have, the reach that you have, to really rival these big mainstream cosmetics, and the budget that they must have, and the number of people they must have. It is quite extraordinary what you've been able to do.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. Obviously, I never anticipated that to happen. Yeah. For me, it was just, let's just keep creating amazing content that our students and our prospective students will love. And I always have a two-pronged approach in creating content. So I try and split it 50-50. I still have editorial oversight of all the content. So we have content meetings where I sign off on what we're going to write about, what we're going to speak about, etc. Two-pronged approach. Firstly, I would really like us to create pillar content that will perform well in Google. And that isn't rocket science. We just go into Google and look at what people are searching for. And then we'll look at alternative ways that they can search for those terms, and we'll rewrite and, create the same article maybe 5 times over the space of 5 years, because ultimately people benefit from it if they search for it in different ways. Mm. And then the second prong is that we're trying to answer questions that our students and prospective students have. So if someone comes to me and says, how much does it cost to start a beauty brand? I'll go, there's my next blog post. Perfect. Because if someone's asking me that question, they need the answer to it. And rather than me have to type out or answer them in person, now my team can go, here's an article. And it's so incredibly beneficial. So that 2-pronged approach has created a really strong footprint for us in Google, but it's also created immense goodwill in the community that we've built around Formula Botanica.
So it's the pillar content, the content that people are actively searching for using search terms on Google, and then it's answering those proactive questions that you're being asked by your community. And I guess if one person's asking it, multiple people are asking it, you're just kind of getting the attention of that one person who's reaching out to you, but it's in the minds of many. So I love this approach very much. And I know that you've had this massive growth, and you mentioned there that you've still got that editorial control. But I'm curious, what are some of the mindsets that you kind of needed to let go of, or that you needed to embrace to really cultivate the growth that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I very much viewed this as a hobby. I mean, you've heard me say at the beginning of this interview, even, it was very much my hobby business, because that's also how everyone around me treated it. I don't think anyone could see the potential, including probably me. And I mean, you don't buy a tiny little one-woman side hustle that you're going to run for an hour a day and envisage that, 8 years down the line, you'll have 40 staff, 17,000 students, and, $5 million in sales every year. You just don't. So obviously it's taken a number of hurdles for me to get over to in order to embrace that, yes, we can continue to grow, and we can still continue to grow phenomenally. I mean, Formula Botanica is only really scratching the surface of what's possible. So I think the biggest mindset challenge for me was to get over that idea of this is a hobby to this is a really serious enterprise. We're changing people's lives. And not just that, we're doing incredible work, and we are a credible institution. So obviously we're an education body, but we're not formally accredited by a university. Like, we're not handing out bachelor's or science degrees or whatever. It's a vocational training. So obviously it's been hard for us as well to sort of get into the mindset of we are credible, we can do this. And that has come through just chipping away at it over years, working with our students, and mainly seeing the results that our courses have, because they do change lives. I have hundreds and hundreds of stories from our graduates who have completely and totally changed their life as a result of studying with us. I get handwritten notes and letters from people going, thank you so much, I owe everything to you, which is unbelievably humbling.
Yeah.
So I think that has been the biggest mindset shift for me, is going from this, you're running a hobby, to you're running a really serious, credible enterprise that has incredible world impact. And that obviously takes growth and time. That doesn't happen overnight, and you have to challenge yourself continuously. And even now, there will be things that I still have to work on. But I'd say that's been the biggest thing for me.
You mentioned there about the customers that write to you and those success stories. How do you go about treating that as content? Like, are you sharing those stories? How do you do that? What's some of the ways you're doing that?
We often do live streams, particularly during launch events. And what I like to do nowadays, because I get sent a lot of products. I know this is an audio podcast, so you can't see all the products behind me, but I have a lot of them. For instance, I will do a live unboxing from something that a graduate has sent me, and I have no idea what's in it. And then I'll pull out the notes in there, I'll read it out, I'll show everyone, I'll unbox their products. It is such a privilege to be able to do that, because that also unbelievably drives sales for them. I once did a live stream with a graduate, and as a result, she sold 20 kilos of product off the back of that one live stream, which was incredible. So I tend to really shout from the rooftops about it, because not only is it great for the graduate, and they really benefit from the exposure that they get on our social channels and on our content, but also it's just a really lovely way of saying, look, we've changed this person's life, and look at that, I can share it with you publicly, and I'm so proud of it.
That is remarkable. And again, I think because what you're helping people to create in most cases is a physical product, being able to showcase and really demonstrate that product is kind of such a clever thing to do and such a powerful thing to do. And it's also irrefutable proof, you know.
Yeah.
And I love to watching you launch your course. And if we can just talk about that just for a moment, you do some fantastic content marketing around your course and demonstrating, like, because you're helping people to formulate a product, you actually have real life things that you can demonstrate. And I do encourage all our listeners to go and follow Lorraine, go and find out what she's doing and look at what she's doing on social media. You'll often see her kind of standing in front of a table with a whole bunch of stuff around her and actually cooking up an amazing formulation right in front of your eyes. So tell us a little bit about some of the content marketing you do in the lead up to, say, launching a course that I know is really successful for you each year.
Yes. Oh, I love launching. Launching is so much fun. What we tend to do is we create an event. And in that event, we will get as many people as possible to take part and actually make a physical product. So we've just done one in May. We had 60,000 people take part. Over 60,000. I mean, you could fill like a football stadium with that number of people. And I was trying to visualize it as we were going through the launch, and I couldn't because it was just so huge. It was the biggest one we'd ever done. And then we will thank you. And we'll take people on a journey from I know nothing about formulation to now I have a product in my hand that I have made, because my mission is that I want to teach the world to formulate. And so everything we do is driven by that mission. And that means when we have 60,000 people take part, we are absolutely bang on that mission. But then I'll break it down into, we created a mini Netflix series actually, which was so much fun. And we broke it down into different episodes. And in one episode, you would learn how to make the base of a face cream. And then in the next episode, you'd learn how to add botanical extracts to it. And then in the next episode, you'd learn how to test the pH and preserve it naturally. And in the end, you were then left with this beautiful antioxidant-rich, bright yellow face cream. And we had hundreds and hundreds of people send us their photos as well. So we're always inundated by user-generated content, which is a marketer's dream, basically. Yes. And so 60,000 people took part. We even had kit providers all around the world. So we worked with various ingredient suppliers in Europe, in Australasia, in the North Americas, and they were all stocking small kits that you could buy for $40. And you would then be able to take part in the Formula Botanica Masterclass. So we sold all of them out. It was incredible.
Wow.
It was the first time we'd ever done it. So we were sending all of our traffic that way. And everyone was buying these kits, and then they were all getting sold out, and people were sort of going, where are they? And it just showed the popularity of what we were doing. And yeah, everyone made these products and everyone had so much fun with it. And then at the end of it, obviously we go, well, the next step on the journey, if you want to learn how to formulate and turn it into a business, is to come and study with us. And many of them did. So we always run these big, very successful launch events, which are teaching the world to formulate, but also allowing us to take in our next student intake, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's just a win-win. And I think a lot of people, when they think about selling their course or making an offer, they feel like they're going to be seeming pushy or desperate. Like I've heard people use those words, or overly salesy. And, you know, you are just such a gorgeous human, and the way you do it, it just feels like such a natural next step, such a natural invitation. Hey, you've had fun here. We've all had a great time. You've delivered all this incredible value to them, and then you're inviting them to move forward. How hard did you find that process of actually going into a sales pitch, if you want to call it that, or making an offer? Was that always just naturally easy for you, or did you have to overcome some stuff around that?
No, I've always found it quite straightforward, really, because I know that our courses will change people's lives. I keep coming back to this. They are life-changing. I have spoken to graduates who've gone, I was a stay-at-home mum. I didn't know what I was going to do. I couldn't go back to my day job. I needed to be with my babies. I created this business, and now, you know, I can support my family. Or we spoke to a graduate the other day who said, my husband used to go out to work. He used to support me. Now we've dedicated an entire floor of our house to my manufacturing lab. I have my own skincare brand, and my husband works for me. Now I've got graduates who are going, I knew nothing about formulation, and now I employ 10 staff. It is incredible to watch the transformation that our graduates go through. Our most successful graduates have raised over $10 million in investment funding. They're stocked literally globally. They're in Target, they're in Sephora, they're in Boots in the UK. It's incredible to watch the success that they have, that many of our graduates have. So I know what that transformation could mean for them. And I want that transformation for them.
Yeah.
So yes, the sale is part of that. And yes, I want to run a viable business. And yes, we want to make money. But I really want that transformation for the people who enroll with us, because I know what that could mean for them.
Sorry about that. My computer just started going off. I just love what you're saying there. About the mission and that passion, making it possible for you to do almost anything, you know. So we get over this discomfort fairly quickly. We get over the discomfort fairly quickly in terms of making offers, doing the things that bother us, because we are so passionate about helping the people we're so keen on helping. So I absolutely love what you're saying there. And I wanted to kind of go to the people now who might be listening and thinking, okay, great, you've got 8 years of blog posts out there and 17,000 students, but here I am kind of at the beginning. I've got a few hundred people finding me on my website every month. I've got a handful of people that might buy my course each month or join my membership. I've got a small email list. What would be your number one piece of advice for someone starting out today in the same position that you were in, perhaps when you began? Where do you see the traction these days? Is it different? Like, is blogging still the way to go, or do we need to be looking at other things?
I think it's probably three-pronged. Firstly, you need to make sure that your product is awesome and that it can change people's lives, even in a small, tiny way, as long as it has that transformational aspect to it and people have told you that it does, then I think you know that you're onto something good. The second thing is community. You're not just putting out content, obviously, you're also building a community around your content. And that is something else I did very actively in the early days. I was in the Facebook group that went with the courses, and I was talking to people all the time. They were in my DMs. I was far too open about it. Obviously, nowadays, no one has access to me in that quite open way. But I was hustling my backside off to create an amazing, positive community. And that whole feeling of community still stands there today. I now have 8 members of staff who run our communities because they're so big and so active. But that has been a really big driver as well, because that community wants to read what we put out. They want to be part of everything we do. So community is another really important thing. And then the final thing I would say is consistency. I mean, we've talked about it already, but you have to show up every single time that you say you will and actually do the thing that you will. And I know people struggle with this, but you have to force yourself to just be consistent. And in the early days, if we went on holiday, I would still be publishing that blog post and sending out that newsletter. If I was unwell, I would still be publishing that blog post and sending out that newsletter. I was so driven to make this a success and to be consistent about it that I always showed up. Now, obviously, I have a team who can take care of all of this now, but don't forget, it wasn't like that for years. You know, things have really shot up, particularly since COVID. You know, we hired 25 new staff members in 2020 because we almost doubled in size overnight during the pandemic. But just be consistent. And if it terrifies you, you're going to have to get out of that comfort zone that you're in, really push yourself to just keep going. It's like Nemo, right? Just keep swimming. And that's all you have to do. If you've got a product that works, you know that you're writing the right content and you've got community around you, it will start to roll.
That's great advice. And, you know, I'm sitting here thinking about some of the most successful people in this space of online marketing that I know, and they are really the ones that just kept swimming. They really are the ones that just kept doing it. It is such powerful advice. Now, Lorraine, you've generously given a free gift for our listeners. It's a free course over at Formula Botanica, and we'll give everybody the link to that in a little bit, and we'll be putting it in our show notes as well. But can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we have a free formulation course. We always have a free course of some kind ongoing, and I would love for anyone listening to come and join us. And you'll learn how to formulate, because everyone can formulate. It is as easy as cookery. You can just throw together a few ingredients. You can do it safely and naturally at home. And we love teaching people how to do so, because obviously we're on a mission to teach the world to formulate. So we have a fun course. It teaches you how to classify your different ingredients, how to understand skincare ingredients, shows you how to make a super simple body butter with 4 different ingredients that you can get everywhere in the world. And then we'll show you how to set up your mini home formulation lab and the sort of things that you'll need in there. But it's super easy, super inexpensive, and a lot of fun. So come and sign up and take part.
I'm going to do it. I just listening to you speak now, I'm thinking, yeah, why am I not doing this? This sounds like so much fun. And for anyone that's listening, go and learn how to do this, but also watch what Lorraine is doing. Watch how she's putting the content together, even the pages and all of that is just, there's so much to be learned from how Lorraine is presenting the information, how she's breaking it down into really bite-sized pieces. Lorraine, I'm so grateful for your inspiration and your wisdom today. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I just want to say a huge thank you for having me on the podcast. Content is fun. And that's the main thing I would say to anyone listening. Making your own content is a creative process, and use it as your outlet for your creativity, because you'll have so much fun with it.
Content is fun. I love that. I feel the same. I'm a total content geek, and I know a lot of people do not feel that way. But yeah, it is about finding the fun, finding the bit that turns you on and that makes you passionate and playing to your strengths. And you certainly have. And what an inspiration, what a success. I want to congratulate you on everything you've achieved. I know it's just the beginning, but thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
That was fantastic. I want to meet her. I'm so excited that you spent that time with Lorraine and captured all that wisdom that she has to share.
Yeah, look, she is a badass. She really is. And she's such she just gets on with it, which is what I love about her. And I think that really came through in the interview, that she's just been so incredibly focused and consistent, and all the things we say here on the show. And she's such a great example of what that looks like a few years down the track.
Absolutely. Well, I literally took a page of notes myself as I was listening back to you speaking with her. And I know that one of the things both you and I were talking about earlier was, she was a mum. It was a hobby. It was on the side. She was trying to squeeze it in the moments between, having a toddler and a newborn. And this side hustle is now, hundreds of students, thousands of students. Just an incredible mindset shift from going, oh, okay, this is no longer a hobby. I'm making this my main gig.
I love that. And I think that, there may be quite a few people listening right now for whom their business is the side hustle, or it's the hobby, or it's the thing you're filling in time on. And what Lorraine shared with us was how very quickly she realized, holy cow, this is like, I can make a go of this. I can really turn this into something. And, she said within 4 months, she threw herself into it, and she went from 200 students, which is what was, I think, the number when she purchased the business. And now, this figure is mind-boggling, Suzi, 40,000.
I know, that's fantastic. Fantastic.
That's great, isn't it? And the bit that she said that really landed for me, and I wanted to point out for our listeners, was what you said about the mindset shift. And she said it came down to this idea, hang on a minute, we are really credible. Like, this is a real thing. And I think so often we think, oh, it's a side hustle, or it's not a real business. And I think we want to eradicate that language from our what we're saying to ourselves and what we're saying to others.
Right, because that shift is where it begins. While we sit, and sometimes we can say, oh, this is a hobby or a side hustle, and we're saying that because it's not quite working out financially, or, it's not producing the results we want. But the moment that we commit to, okay, this is now going to become my main thing, you can get gains really, really quickly. So I love that. And that she was changing people's lives, and she really owned that and then dove right in. Very, very exciting.
Inspirational. Suzi, the other thing that I feel like she's just a poster child for is consistency. She said the word lots of times, but even when she wasn't saying the word, she was just demonstrating through her actions this just taking consistent action over time, those small incremental tweaks that, over 100 days, over 1,000 days turn into these massive, massive shifts. And that's really that whole idea of, she had just a few thousand people seeing her site, and now she has over 600,000 page views. And all because she plugged away, using her words, at content marketing. Every single Tuesday, a piece of content went out. Every single Thursday, that podcast content went out. And she called it layering like an onion. And I just, it's not necessarily sexy, but gee, the results are.
Absolutely. And, maybe the first time she did a post, maybe the first year, it felt like crickets. But that consistency, that grit is something I know that you and I are very much on about, Michelle, and when we work with our masterminders, it's about not going down lots of little rabbit holes, but really staying consistent, picking your lane and doing it. For her, it was blogging. And you can bet she got better and better. Her SEO, her search engine optimization got better. The content was more specific. She was being found. And she went on to say how, she's now getting more traffic than some of the really big brands in her space because she got good at this thing. But more than that, she was consistent. She actually used the Nemo term of just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. I loved it.
It is a bit of a mantra we all need to say to ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think the point you made about, those first weeks, months, or even the first year or more where you kind of feel like you're screaming into the void, 3 people liked your post and one of them was your mum, So many people tell their stories that had these massively successful businesses. That's where they started. They just outstayed the people that gave up. And she even referred to some of the colleagues that started the business around the same time, started businesses around the same time as her, who petered out. And it is often that, just the grit, just the staying in there, just the keeping on swimming. And it blew my mind when she said that she's got bigger traffic and more readership than, some of these highly resourced, big budget cosmetic brands. I mean, we're talking about household names that have got millions of dollars to spend. And she's beating them without spending money, which is just incredible. And that really leads me to the point about what she shared, which I thought was so valuable, her 2-pronged approach to content.
I love this.
Yeah, wasn't it good?
Because she simplified it. And when you hear, when you hear what she's doing, it's not complicated. And sometimes we just need a structure and a system. Like we go, oh, I have nothing to say, I don't know what to say. But she really brought it down to 2 very specific things.
Yeah, which again, I think helps with that consistency piece. And those 2 things were what she called her pillar content that's, optimized for search engines. It's searchable on Google. And she's very deliberate and very strategic about that pillar content. And that's where her early readers are finding her. And then the second prong is answering the questions that her students have. And we can all do that. You've got a customer service inquiry, or you have somebody ask you something on social media. You want that light bulb to go off above your head like it did for Lorraine, where she said, oh, I've got my next blog post. And she said how much community goodwill that one strategy gave her. So the bigger, the pillar content that's searchable is out there getting all the new people finding her, and then answering those questions her community really needs helped the community to, really love her and want to stay in her world once they got there.
And there's one other thing, we've kind of covered it, that I wanted to mention here, and that is always show up. Show up is something we're very big on inside her business. And, she said, even if it terrifies you, keep showing up. And she said, content is fun. Making your own content is a creative process. And I love that she said that, because we can be so daunted by the idea of creating content. But once we find what our medium is, for her it was blogging, for you it might be having a Facebook group or doing Facebook Lives or writing or doing stage presentations, whatever it is. If you think about your content as part of your own creative process, using it as an outlet for your creativity, that again just puts a different slant on it. And she said, have fun with it. The fact that it can be fun, I just found really refreshing.
Yeah, such great advice from Lorraine, and also that reframe, you've just given our listeners around just finding whatever that fun is or that creative outlet is for each of us.
Yeah, very, very good. So thank you. Now, we want to put you in touch with Lorraine. Plus, we mentioned earlier that there is a free course that Lorraine has put together that is making available to you, our amazing listener. Now, it is a free formulation course, and I want to do this. So this is you actually creating with her support. And so it's also a great way to check out what she's doing as a marketer. So Michelle and I are always looking at things at two levels. One is what is actually happening here from a marketing perspective, as well as being in the content. And so there's so much to learn from what she's doing and how she presents the content. So you want to go ahead and pick up your free training at formulabotanica.com/free-course. I'll say that again, and we will put it in our show notes, and I'll give you those details in a moment. But the free training is at formulabotanica, or one word, .com/free-course. So good. So good. All righty. Now, if you
just put a mental picture of you and I cooking up together, like standing in our, one of it, or your kitchen or my kitchen, and actually doing this.
I know. I think I would love, I don't know what she gets you to make in that course, but I would love to make a natural face cream. I would love that. I love that, the idea of that. Excuse me. So we love to share tips just like those that Lorraine shared with us with as many business women as possible. So we would love it if you would leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. We have over 100 5-star reviews right now. So thank you you've already left one. If you haven't, and you enjoyed today's episode, we would love it if you would take a moment to do that. And while we are talking about reviews, I want to mention the lovely Michelle Pascoe, who is one of our members, and she has a company called Oops, and she specialises in secret shoppers. It's a great business, and she's had this business for many, many years, very successful business. And she recently listened to the episode, which was what was the full name? Why you don't need to change your marketing. And she said, I loved this episode. A great reminder to stay focused and not go off track with the new wow thing. Yes, Michelle Pascoe. That is absolutely right. And so that was an episode from a couple of weeks back. So we will put a link to that in our show notes. And we mentioned a bunch of other resources on today's show, and we've made it really easy for you to access those goodies, including the free training from Lorraine, plus her contact information so that you can follow her on all her different social media and see what she's doing. We're going to put all that over on our website at herbusiness.com/botanica, BOTANICA. So thank you again for organising that interview, Michelle, and thank you, Lorraine. I cannot wait to meet you. So, Michelle, what do we have coming up in the next episode?
We are speaking with another brilliant woman on the next show, another guest. And this is the incredible Denise Duffield Thomas, who is a best-selling author. She's a hoot, and she's also a very wise woman, and she's speaking about a really important topic around money mindset and how we can really apply a lot of her strategies to make our marketing effortless. And she kind of puts a hyphen in there, effortless, not effort more. And that's
I love it.
what we're on about here on this show. And so that is going to be one you absolutely want to check out, and really looking forward to hearing all of Denise's brilliance on that particular episode.
So that's the next episode. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to. And we'll be back with that episode real soon. Michelle, anything you want to say before we go today?
I just want to echo your thanks to Lorraine for being, just so generous with her time. And come on, Suzi, let's go and check out that course. And I just encourage anybody else to go and check it out as well. formulabotanica.com/free-course. I want to make some goop with you.
Let's make some goop. Hey, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time right here on the Content Sells podcast. Bye for now.